And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at StokesVW.com, and you can find us on the JB and Goldwater app. If you download that, it is free, and you can watch and listen to our program daily. You can always head to JB and GoldwaterShow.com as well for much more information about our program. Speaking of which, it's another busy day. 3 more guests to pass along to you on what is a gorgeous day in the state of South Carolina. At 12:35, Josh Pate, host of the Late Kick with, Josh Pate, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He'll join us to get into a lot of college football. Josh also is a big Braves fan, so that should be fun. But certainly there are many topics out there in football with another great weekend upon us, and we'll get into all of that with JP. David Shelton, more football at the top of the 1 o'clock hour, but the high school source here in the Low Country. He, of course, is with the Post and Courier. And then Scott Glaze will join us coming up at about 1:35 this afternoon. Scott out there at Stono Ferry, StonoFerryGolf.com, and we've got some golf stuff to pass along there as well. Coastal loses last night for the first time in a very long time in the regular season. Going to get into that. And, of course, the Atlanta Braves are 1 game shy of the World Series. And if it weren't for one swing of the bat by Cody Bellinger 2 nights ago, this one would be over. Atlanta last night went with a bullpen game. The bullpen got it done, and the offense got it done with an exclamation point in the 9th inning. And they pounded Los Angeles and quieted down Bill Plaschke's crowd out there at Chavez Ravine. And tonight could be the night where the Braves, Darren, return to the World Series for the first time in this century. It would be 1999, the last time that they made it. Good afternoon, my friend.
It's also been 20 years since both teams in the league championship series won by 7 runs. Yeah. Last time that happened, the Braves were on the losing end of that. Today is also just the 25th time ever Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, all playing on the same day. So happy day, sports.
Happy sports equinox to all of you sports fans out there. Yeah, 25th, it's crazy. 25th day ever. So tonight, maybe just try to go through all the channels to say that you at least watch part of 4 different major sports on the same day. Just for a second, just say you did it. I think it'd be kind of neat. We'll get to Coastal in just a little bit, Darren, but I was dead wrong yesterday as it pertains to baseball. I thought that last night the Dodgers would have some momentum with a bullpen game in hand for Atlanta. I thought, it's going to be tough. Braves going to have to end up going back and winning this thing if they win it in hot Atlanta. And I thought for sure that Boston would rebound and get the best of Houston. I was dead wrong on both of those. We'll get to Atlanta in a second. Let's start with the Astros and the Red Sox, that 9-1 final. Chris Sale's comments after the game were awesome. Basically said he, quote, left his nuts on the mound and said he'd pitch today if he needed to because he has nothing to do for the next 6 months. And he might really not have anything to do for the next 6 months if the Red Sox can't get a Game 6 win on Friday night at 8 o'clock over in Houston at Minute Maid Park. It'll be over if the Astros are able to win that one. But since the loud boom of the Red Sox bats early on in games 2 and 3, they've largely been quiet. Astros pitching has been spectacular. That Houston organization in here 5 straight times, Darren. They understand this moment. Obviously, the Red Sox know a little bit about this moment as well, but these dudes, as you pointed out earlier in the series, are very seasoned over there. And the Astros, they haven't decided officially on a starting pitcher for tomorrow night, but they will see Nathan Eovaldi for Boston, and they'll have an opportunity to get back to the World Series against either the Braves or the Dodgers.
Yeah, the last couple of games, the Red Sox have gone from like the hottest team on the planet to the coldest. They're hitting just barely over 100 in the last 2 games after mashing the ball all over the place, like 50 some odd runs in their previous 6. Like I said, that series was long from over when they took that series lead, and now the Astros have the advantage heading back to Houston. I think it would behoove the Braves to win tonight. I don't think you want to give the Dodgers a day off to just kind of gather themselves a little bit. There's a lot of chatter that they're tired. I think it would behoove the Braves a lot to win tonight and not go back to Atlanta, not win in front of your home crowd. I think if it gets there, I would be nervous. I think you need to take care of business tonight.
Well, and here's the thing. They set themselves up perfectly. It was one of those situations where for Atlanta, if it didn't work out, they had their guy going today in Max Fried, and he would be there to get them back into Truist Park, hopefully with a series lead. I mean, I don't know who else you were going to want to start over this guy today. But if you won last night, then you have Max Fried going to clinch it. If it doesn't work out, you do get to go home still up 3-2. Now, they've been here before. They were here last year, 3-1. Of course, they also didn't have a return to Atlanta in their sights either if they didn't get it done in Game 5. But it's Max Fried, and as far as I know, again, the Dodgers haven't announced a starting pitcher tonight. It's more than likely a bullpen game for them, just like it was for Atlanta last night. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to disregard whether LA can win this thing, because I didn't think last night that Atlanta had much of a shot with that. I thought the Dodgers would probably be able to muster enough with Urias on the mound for LA to get that thing done. I didn't think the Braves bullpen would be atrocious or anything, but Darren, I thought for sure as you change arms throughout the ball game, however he was planning to do it, Brian Snitker, 4 or 5 runs probably would be enough for LA to win it. And I was dead wrong. The Braves bullpen was beyond spectacular for 9 innings because it was all bullpen guys. I mean, I know that Drew Smyly had a lot of starts this year, but he's still a bullpen guy this time of the year, and he's given up a lot of long balls, and there were a couple close calls early in the game. But it's set up perfect now. You got Max Fried. He's set to go, and hopefully he can go out and pitch as long as he possibly can, Darren. And the Braves offense is back to clicking. And 4 balls left the yard last night. Rosario is flaming hot. Soler, whenever he's able to get back, I don't know how you put him in the lineup with the way this kid's swinging the bat. I don't think you can. And Freddie Freeman is back on track. I mean, it's kind of all falling into place for Atlanta. And if you really look at it, starting pitching for the most part this year for the Braves has been pretty good. Offensively, they've been pretty good. Defensively, they've been really good. There was one question mark, and that was the bullpen. Can the bullpen get enough through the postseason? And guess what? Outside of one pitch by Luke Jackson, they've checked every box. And it's hard to look at the Braves with this year's 3-1 lead versus last year's 3-1 lead and discount them as not heavy favorites to make it to the Fall Classic.
They're heavy favorites now. Now that they're up 3-1, they're heavy favorites. Yeah, and not just that they're up 3-1, it's that the Dodgers are taking on more and more injuries, right? Kershaw's already not there. Bauer's already not there. There was already a critical injury. Now you got Justin Turner, who's down too. So, yeah, they are heavy, heavy favorites. And like you said, with Fried going, you like the odds tonight. But to what I was saying, get it done tonight. Don't let them get some... maybe we can pull this off field, get a day off to kind of rest, to recuperate, get some of their pitching back on track. You don't want this series, my sense, heading back to Atlanta. I also retweeted this earlier today. Jeff Passan threw this out there. The guys the Braves got right around the deadline, Duvall, Peterson, Rosario, and Soler, 101 plate appearances in Atlanta together once they came over. They're hitting 340. They're slugging 590, wow. 21 RBIs and 6 homers in 8 games in this postseason. So it's not the whole lump, it's the postseason. The guys they brought in for the postseason run have been, let's say, contributing, or you could say carrying them. You could go that way too.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's always, every fan base is going to criticize leadership, and I understand that. And there's a skin of the Braves fan base that constantly wants to try to find a way to blame Brian Snitker and Alex Anthopoulos and this, that, and the other. Well, if you've done that, I hope today you're looking in the mirror and saying, you either I was wrong or maybe I wasn't wrong, but they sure as hell deserve credit now. I mean, Alex Anthopoulos made some unbelievable moves, and Brian Snitker, Brian Snitker, guys, he's one of my favorite managers, and the reason that he's one of my favorite, it has nothing to do with him being in Atlanta. It's because of how he manages. Like he's been around long enough, which is basically 40 years in the organization, to where he knows how to manage old school. Like, believe there are still old school players out there. Mm-hmm. Freddie Freeman is an old school guy. I mean, there are old school dudes in this new age of baseball, and you have to know how to manage those guys versus how to manage kind of a new era. But in addition to that, as you know, Darren, like, you also have to know how to manage the game versus managing the analytics. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of managers who analytics have consumed them, and that becomes the Bible almost. And it's not. You still have to be able to manage with feel in baseball. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to be a very good manager. And you're going to have a GM and a president and all these other little hands and all these corner offices and all these different ballparks across the country basically pulling the strings. You're essentially a puppet. And that's not the case in Atlanta. Brian Snitker has earned his stripes, and he knows how to handle his guys. And he's also been accepting of some of the new age information that dudes use today in baseball to help them kind of get through a season or a series or an inning or an at-bat or whatever it may be.
I think it's true in every sport, right? Every level of the sport. With the new age, there's more analytics. There's a ton more information that's out there that you can pour through. The key is taking that and then balancing that with doing your job. When do you utilize that information? When do you rely on that information? When does that information guide you? And when is it a factor in the decision? When is it kind of on the back burner and you go, as you just said, with your feel? That's true now across the landscape of all sports. And some guys have a different, percentage on how often they're going to rely on the analytics versus a feel. But the key is, can you manage it? Whichever way you go, kind of like how G.A. Mangus put it yesterday. Whichever way you go, can you make it simple on yourself in this case, as opposed to the players and what he was saying? But it's the balance there. However you want to balance it, it's the balance. And if you've got your feel down, then that's what's going to take you as the leader, manager, coach, your team, the next level.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, do you know who you are? Mm-hmm. I mean, and Brian Snitker knows exactly who he is, and that's what I love about him. And look, they haven't made it to the World Series yet, and if they make it, they haven't won it yet. You're gonna have to win 4 more games there. But this, I'm not really looking at it from that angle. I'm looking at it from what type of manager he is, for the amount of criticism that he takes. I mean, I've heard people say this to me before. I can't believe Snitker put so and so in there. I'm like, I don't know. You haven't been around these guys every day. How the hell do you know? You know what I mean? So I love what he's doing. We'll see what happens tonight. I feel really good about the Braves with Max Fried on the mound. The Dodgers will not go quietly. They're way too good for that. Dave Roberts is some of his decisions are being questioned, but again, per what we just said here, I can't question what Dave Roberts is doing. He manages the club. He knows what the hell's going on.
And they won 106 games this year.
They won 106 games. Yeah.
They're banged up. They're tired. So there's a lot there. He's trying to pull some strings right now, knowing that he's got to pull them a little differently than he has been because the team isn't where the team was.
Yeah, exactly. And the Braves, they've been through that, and they had to navigate around it to get where they are now. So both of these teams have had hurdles, and right now the Braves have cleared those better, and they're a game shy of getting to the World Series. Wow, it could be a lot of celebrating in the South tonight because regardless of what Rays and Marlins fans, anybody else wants to believe, that the Braves are still the team of the South. And certainly tonight, if the Braves get to the World Series and Houston gets to the World Series, outside of Houston and Dean Stevens, there ain't nobody pulling for the Astros to win this thing. Everybody will be pulling for Atlanta.
Absolutely pulling for the Astros, man. I want to.
You'll be in the minority.
That's fine. I want to see Dusty Baker win it. I'm pretty much over the whole trash can thing already. It's in the past to me. So
I don't care about that.
Yeah. So fine. Yeah, I'm absolutely pulling for the Astros here.
Yeah, I don't even want to hear about it anymore. I don't care. It's over. Unless it's affecting right now, I don't want to hear about it. I don't
exactly. So there'll be plenty of people pulling for the Astros who are also on that side of things. Like if you don't care about the trash cans at this point, yeah. Dusty Baker's a good story. Getting him a World Series ring, that matters. It matters to me. He's a really, really good dude, and that's the only thing that's not on this resume.
One of the good ones. Yeah, one of the great ones. Been around a long time. I mean, he's been through it. There's no question about that, Darren. But maybe he can win one next year. Let's have the Braves slip in there and try to get it done. All right, MotleyRice.com. If you've been harmed by medical drugs and devices burdened by auto recalls like Takata airbags, MotleyRice.com. Yeah, they're the lead litigators on the Takata airbag lawsuit. Globally, it's amazing what Motley Rice does, but they've never forgotten or lost their local Carolina roots. MotleyRice.com. 12:17 on a Thursday afternoon. Let me scroll up here in the handy-dandy Share Healthcare chat room.
A little bit of chatter in there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there. Got a bunch of Brave stuff. Got some Carolina stuff. Craig asking me if I can comment on Tony Morrell's article yesterday or his Big Spur content off limits. I can absolutely comment on that, Craig, and I see a lot of the follow-up conversation based on that question. I will we'll get to that here in just a moment. Do want to make sure that we hit on what happened last night with the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers falling up there in Boone, North Carolina, and with that loss, Darren, I'm this is just a prediction. I feel like they've now fallen out of the New Year's Six. I don't know that one loss is going to be allowable or acceptable for a Sun Belt team, even if they win the league, to get into a New Year's Six. Obviously, depending on what happens around the rest of the country, but nonetheless, it looked like it was really headed in Coastal's way early on, and App State hung in there, and they were able to pull it out. Chase Bryce threw for 347 on only 18 completions and a pair of touchdowns, kind of shredding the Chanticleers D down the stretch. And, Grayson McCall, I mean, he's a hell of a football player. Coastal's a hell of a team, but it was App State's night. First time since November of 2019, Coastal's lost a regular season game as well. Their undefeated record is out the window. I don't know if this will drop them all the way out of the top 25. My gut tells me they'll probably land at 25 or 24. But App State kept them winless up there in Boone, and maybe kind of a reminder of, hey, not yet, Coastal. We're still App State.
I've been leaning that way for a long time. I've said it on the show a couple times in the last few weeks that I thought App State was probably going to beat Coastal. I've said it. I was shocked, and I brought this up with Joe Cashin, that App State took it on the chin last week to Louisiana. Yeah. And my question to Joe was, is that good or bad for Coastal? Did it refocus them? Were they overlooking Louisiana a little bit? Coastal came out and looked good, but App's defense shut them down. Yeah, Grayson had some really nice throws in there. There were a couple he just dropped right in. They ran for 55 yards. If Coastal runs for 55 yards, they're going to lose a football game. That's their bread and butter, and they got shut down. But it was a great football game. I agree with you. Maybe they're still in the top 25. No shot they're in a New Year's Six.
Yeah.
But it was a hell of a game. It was a great atmosphere. It was sold out. It was fall colors up in Boone. It was awesome. It's what you like to see. Was it two of the best teams in the country? No, but they were two really evenly matched teams that were kind of throwing blows at each other. And if you like the game of football, that was a game you'd like to watch. I enjoyed it. I watched almost the entire thing.
Yeah, Coastal, they don't have the Cajuns on their schedule this year. I mean, every game left is very manageable and very winnable. I would, look, I'll say that, Troy defensively is pretty good. Remember, we saw them in Williams-Brice a couple weeks ago. So that game next, Thursday night could be tricky. And then after that, they got to go to Georgia Southern. You don't just walk in there and win. So, careful. But if they get through those, Georgia State, Texas State, South Alabama, I'd say you're probably feeling pretty good if you're Coastal. But and I don't, this doesn't make them a bad team. I mean, App State's also a pretty good football team. But
yeah, Coastal's good. They just got beat, man. That was a good football game. They just got beat.
Well, to your point, whatever. I mean, I was in and out of the game because I was watching so much baseball. But whatever adjustments were made at halftime by the Mountaineers defensively, that's what, as good as Chase Bryce was, that's what won the game.
Yeah.
Because Coastal couldn't move the football in the final two quarters of the game. They scored 7 points in the second half.
Yeah, well, they were up 14-0, right?
Yeah, in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then after that, they scored 13 points. So
they didn't get to their own 40-yard line in any of their last 3 drives, Coastal. So I mean, as App State's coming back on them, and then they get the ball back to go kick that field goal, the defense shut them down. I mean, Coastal couldn't move the ball the last 3 times they had it.
Yeah, a pretty remarkable football game for a Wednesday night.
That onside kick was a heck of a call, by the way.
You're right, Craig. You're spot on. That's it totally changed the game, and you could kind of feel it at that point in time. And Coastal falls. So the linebacker that sent the Instagram message to Chase Bryce is probably regretting that today. And maybe his mullet, too. That's the nastiest looking haircut I've seen.
The whole mullet thing in Coastal, man. I mean, that's reason enough for them to lose. And their teal turf that I can't stand looking at. Nothing against them, except everything that I just said. I liked how Bryce responded. Clearly, Chase Bryce didn't accept that message because you could see it in the screenshot of his phone. And then he waits. That message was sent like a couple months ago. And he waits to respond until last night, this morning. I mean, that's smooth.
Savage.
Yeah.
Savage. Yeah. Savage move. Yeah. All right. On to the Gamecocks. Josh Pate ahead in about 10 minutes here. So what Craig's asking about, if you're a subscriber to the Big Spur. First of all, if you're not a subscriber to the Big Spur, I'm not sure what else I should tell you here. You need to do that. That's number one. JC and his team do a pretty darn good job of covering Gamecock athletics over there. Tony Morrell is one of the better writers out there that covers South Carolina. He's been around a long time. And yesterday he wrote a column that, you could view it as scathing, I guess, if you'd like to, but basically identifying many of the issues we know about. Can I comment on it? Yeah, I can, Craig. I can absolutely comment on what he had to say. I think there's some issues up there. They probably some of those issues more than likely won't totally be resolved until all games are played. But South Carolina this isn't the first time that the college football program might have something like this going on. I mean, this is more common than you would think in the sport. But
so let me just interrupt. For those who didn't see the article, if you're just listening on the podcast and whatnot, sum it up here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, basically, what's it like working with Marcus Satterfield, and do some of the coaches and players have issues with him or with his play calling and things like that? So there's a lot of misinformation that's out there, and let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. Don't believe everything you hear and see on Twitter and message boards and things of that nature. Not all that is true. I think we've all established this over the years, right? But, then there's always going to be a little bit of truth in a lot of that as well, and you got to figure out exactly what is and isn't. Yeah, I mean, I think it's crystal clear. This is I'll tell you what, let me just stop that right there. Let's go back a couple weeks, okay? Anybody remember, and I thought we didn't have David Kloniger on today. Anybody remember the questions that I had for DC last week? Anybody remember that? And he took a little offense to some of it, not because it was direct to him or about him. But my question was, when you have some of the issues that you've had, how do you protect against that in the locker room?
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I saw, there were some people that thought it was a stupid question, and there were other people that were laughing at me. I don't think you're laughing now, because I've been in a locker room, and some of the guys that are in and out of these locker rooms, you hear and see things. I mean,
losing takes a toll, man. It takes a toll.
It does. It absolutely, like you as a player and as a coach, when things aren't perfect, Darren, as you know, you let things slide if you keep notching numbers in the win column.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're winning. When you're not winning and the problems are consistent and they're the same problems that aren't really being corrected, or some are being corrected and others aren't, or one, that type of situation, then you have to start worrying about a lot of different feelings and a lot of different individual people. And I gave a bunch of examples. One was, what message are you sending to Kevin Harris when you let him run you down the field and then you don't let him run you into the end zone with 4 plays to get 1 yard? What message do you send EJ Jenkins when you name a red zone package after him, but you don't put him in the red zone? I was talking to somebody last week. He said, yeah, it was Quandre White's the third or fourth best running back on this team. That wasn't my point. I don't care about that. I think he proved that wrong last week, but I don't care about that. My point was, he had 180 yards of total offense in the first week and basically didn't play after that. It has nothing to do with whether I think, you think, or John Brown, our neighbor on the corner, thinks that he is or isn't a good player. It's whether he thinks he is or isn't a good player. And after he went out and did what he did in week 1 and did literally outside of, I think, 6 carries in one game, didn't even play anymore, what that is doing to him and how that's going to rub off on other players. And there's other instances that we can get to. And if you don't know how to manage that, it will fester and it will blow up. It always happens. You're about 100 out of 100 in that category. Festering blows up. Okay. So, basically Tony Morrell was writing a column about festering. If these issues are around in things that he's hearing, Tony has really good sources. Now if Shane Beamer or Marcus Satterfield are watching this show, I think they probably understand I'm not, implicating Marcus Satterfield that he takes coaches into a back room and beats them with a paddle or anything like that. Or, I haven't seen any of it, so I can't sit here and say that. But based on information that I have received, that I know when some of it is not true, and there's probably a little bit of truth or more than a little bit of truth in this, they have some issues, and they're going to have to get those issues corrected. You go out and beat Texas A&M this week, as you just mentioned, Darren. That's going to correct some issues for you. You know why? Because you won. Mm-hmm. That's why. Does that mean that at the end of the day that the fruit at the bottom of the basket might not be rotten? Nope. Doesn't mean that. It just means you won, and you're going to live to fight another day. So Craig says, again, Beamer's worked too hard to get positivity in this locker room to let it go back the other way. Craig, you're exactly right. And again, this is something that I've hinted at the last 2 weeks without coming out really, saying it exactly like that. I don't think he's in danger of losing a locker room. I don't think he's in danger of having a mass exodus of coaches, to be direct to the point here, because of one coach. I mean, let's be honest. There's rumors out there that there's a lot of coaches that don't want to coach with Marcus Satterfield and they don't get along. And there's rumors that these guys are just going to abandon the program and go look for other things to do. I have literally, I'm being so truthful here, I have zero reason to believe that, like none. Okay. But it doesn't mean that there aren't issues that they need to figure out how to work through. I thought since basically week one that play calling was pretty poor at South Carolina. Certainly, my very uneducated opinion gave them a pass in the first week and even in the second week. New system, new coaches. We just had J.A. Mangus on yesterday. He was very explanatory about how some of this works. It takes time. Darren, you've said this before. And it does take time, but since then, many of the same issues, also like what Coach Mangus was saying on our program yesterday, he was not directly talking about anybody, but just some of the issues that we continue to see week in and week out are the same issues. And those things don't work. Like simple play calling when 4 wide receivers are within 10 yards of each other. Yeah, that doesn't work. Nope. And guess what? It's week 8. So those things, like, that's why I've been like, man, play calling's not good. It's South Carolina. We see it with our own 2 eyes. With all that being said, none of us, and I'm saying this out of all due respect to all the folks that are commenting right now, I'm saying this out of due respect to Darren and myself and Coach Mangus, who was on with us yesterday, and Perry Orth and Michael Flint and J.C. Sherbert and all the people that we associate ourselves with around here. None of us are in Shane Beamer's shoes.
Or in the locker room.
None of us.
What they're trying to do. You don't know how they're trying to fix things. Right. You don't hear what they're saying, except what they say publicly. And you take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And, again, we all have some sources. And, I mean, just to be blunt, I generally always know a little bit more than I probably lead on around here. Okay. But none of us are the head football coach at the University of South Carolina. None of us are. Shane Beamer is. And he's got a lot of things to worry about every single day. He has to worry about his football program in a multitude of ways. He has to manage it in a multitude of ways. And he has to figure out what decisions are best for the current and future of the football program. Period. The end. So, we have to live with those decisions and see how they work out as fans. So I think it's kind of stupid to get on here and demand that Shane Beamer do this, that, and the other, because I don't know what the hell he's doing. How the hell, who am I to tell him what to do or how to do it? I am nobody, but he's got a lot on his plate. And as Coach Mangus pointed out yesterday, you learn more in your first year as a head coach than you'll ever learn in your life. Pretty much in any sport. So Shane is learning a lot. I think he'd probably tell you that as well. It doesn't mean he's not succeeding, but he's learning. And you got to learn how to do a lot of these things, learn what works and doesn't work, and how to manage this, that, and the other, and move on. And at this point in time, Carolina fans need to get their asses in their cars and go watch football on Saturdays, because you only get to do it 7 times a year. So instead of worrying about what you're going to tweet after the game, why don't you go watch it and go support it and take your family and go have fun, and we'll figure out what this program is going to do under Shane Beamer as he gets it figured out himself. That's the only thing I can say. But again, back to the point, what Tony wrote, Tony's got good sources. What do I think about it? I think Tony's on a few things, and I think we should continue to pay attention to that. And we'll see what it looks like at 7:30 Saturday night Eastern time in College Station. Speaking of Eastern time, it's 12:33, and we got to go because Josh Pate, he does not like waiting. He chases storms. He works out. He records 6,000 shows a day. He tweets. He goes on road trips, does all these things. So his time is very limited. So when we get back, Josh Pate with the Late Kick podcast, the Late Kick everything, will join us here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. and 2 others you probably don't think much about. Stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 12:37 Thursday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Driving to Nashville, right? Isn't that where JP is? Where are you, Josh?
I think I'm in Nashville. As far as I can tell, I'm in Nashville.
We don't ever know. We don't know if you're out chasing tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that. So I'm just glad to know you're home.
Yeah, I never like to nail myself down geographically. I just think life's more than that. Life's more than where you are on the map.
Home is where you make it.
There you go.
Exactly. Guy likes to see homeboys naked. That doesn't help me out, any.
Oh, Josh Pate joining us. The late kick with Josh Pate. He's one of the hottest sports guys in the country. If you're not watching him, you're really missing out, and you're not learning enough about college football. I want to compliment you, because one of the great things about what you do, Josh, is something that I at least try to do, not on your level at all, but you educate people, man. You teach people something. You learn something when they watch and listen to you. I really appreciate that. It's good for the soul.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because it's intentional, but it's not, and I want to stress this to the listener out there. It's not that I sit here and view myself as basically a college professor teaching a college football 4,000 class. What I always like, when I was growing up and I was in like high school, college, I'd listen to a lot of sports talk radio. And I always gravitated towards the shows and the people who every time I listened to, I thought I learned something. Well, it's not necessarily that anyone's a Rembrandt or a genius. It's just when you get to a certain level and you do get access to some more information, resources, people, you have a little more informed knowledge, shall we say. And to me, it's on you to share that. And it's on you to disseminate it to your viewers and listeners, because, I mean, there are a million options out there. They're taking time out of their day to listen to you. You better give them something in return.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think it's well said. Darren, you and I have a lot of work to do. So after the show today, we'll watch tape of JP, and we'll get ourselves better for tomorrow. All right, Josh, I need you to do me a favor. You have the JP poll every week, and it's power ratings, But as you point out every single week, power ratings are not rankings. So what's the difference?
Very good question. Thank you for asking. The only difference between the two is a power rating. It will, if done the way that I do them, if done the way an odds maker does them, is it is solely based on who would be favored against who tomorrow if they played in someone's backyard in a neutral field. That's all. That's it. Doesn't matter how many losses you have, how many wins you have. Resume doesn't matter. Eyeball test doesn't matter. Merit doesn't matter. What you deserve doesn't matter. What the AP says doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. This is a hard concept for some to wrap their minds around, because you are used to, as am I, as are all of we college football fans, you're used to growing up in a rankings world, which means by and large, if you win, you should move up and be rewarded. If you lose, you should move down and be punished. We should be rewarding results on the field. That's true. That's true. Well, largely that's true. That's why the playoff committee exists. That's why the AP exists. What I'm doing is the exception. It's a different world entirely. The two don't even mesh. There's nothing in common. They're oil and water. And I'll give you a perfect example. So I've gotten a lot of pushback from some folks around Oklahoma State, because just this week, this is the first time that I've even had Oklahoma State in my top 25. They're at number 25. But as you well know, they're undefeated. They are an undefeated Power 5 team. Well, I've gotten pushback on that, and it keeps on starting the same. It sounds like something like this. How can you say that Oklahoma State belongs below a 2-loss Auburn or a 2-loss Iowa State? And my only response is because they'd be an underdog to them if they played tomorrow. Well, we didn't have to guess anymore. This week, Oklahoma State, undefeated, is playing 2-loss Iowa State. Iowa State's favored by a touchdown, guys. Yes, it's in Ames, Iowa. If I were to tell you home field is even worth 4 points, which it's not, but if I were to just go well above and beyond, say home field's worth 4 points, that is still Las Vegas favoring them by 3 on a neutral field. That's how it works, and that's the end of it.
Okay. Well, see, there you go. Makes all the sense in the world. So let's bring Cincinnati into this. What basically, based on this week's JP poll power ratings, because you have your top 5, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Cincinnati in that order. Essentially what you're saying is, even though Cincinnati is ranked second in the AP poll, if they played any of those 4 programs that are ranked ahead of them in your poll, they would be underdogs.
Cincinnati would be a double-digit underdog to Alabama or Ohio State tomorrow. Yes. I don't know what it would be exactly against Oklahoma, but yes, Cincinnati, by any odds maker's estimation, by any sports book's estimation, yeah, I believe I know good and well they'd be a double-digit dog against Alabama, and I think they would against Ohio State too. But I'll say this on the other hand. I don't think it matters for Cincinnati, because like I've told you guys since the summer, I do believe this is the first year that there is a G5 team that comes as close as any G5 team ever has to controlling its own destiny. Yes, if the top 4, if Georgia and Alabama were to win out and Bama beat Georgia in Atlanta, well, they're both going to the playoff. If Ohio State wins out, they're going to the playoff. If Oklahoma wins out, they're going to the playoff. So yes, if everything remained that clean, yes, Cincinnati would be out. I don't think we live in a world in 2021's college football, at least, where things are going to remain that clean. And so I think Cincinnati, regardless of what any power rating or odds maker says, if they take care of business, they'll get their shot. I do believe that.
Yeah, so it's so interesting, because what I'm envisioning, and we've seen this a couple of times over the last few years, where you have maybe a non-traditional type program that is up there in the especially when the college football playoff rankings come out, Josh, up there in the top 4, and then fans for week to week end up having to go. They end up arguing and bickering back and forth, because whatever program that is will slip a spot. And then we'll slip. And well, we won. How did we slip a spot? But that's kind of what I'm envisioning right now for Cincinnati. If the slate stays clean, or at least as clean as it can be at this point forward, to no fault of their own, even if they blow out everybody left on their schedule, which they probably should, they could continue to slip a spot a week, basically starting sometime in mid-November, and find themselves on the outside looking in, simply because these other programs pick it up. Basically, to summarize kind of what you're saying there, so people can picture that in their minds.
Yeah, it could happen that way. I don't think it will. It could happen that way. And that's about the only scenario where I would argue Cincinnati shouldn't be in the playoff. You guys know, because you talked to me enough in the past, I've never been on board with G5 inclusion into the playoff. I'm a believer there should be a G5 playoff. So to make that clear, that's what I believe. That's not what we have right now. So with that in mind, I've always been a believer that G5 teams don't deserve to be in, not because of their quality of team. It's because of the complete saturation of strength of schedule. And Cincinnati is the first team that I think meets the minimum baseline requirement. They will, in this scenario, have been undefeated. They will have a win over Indiana on the road, a win over Notre Dame on the road. But they'll also, and I think this may be as important this year, they will have an undefeated resume and a conference championship in a conference in the AAC that I think has risen to being on par with lower level Power 5 conferences. I mean, right now, the ACC and the Pac-12 are nothing to write home about. So in the past, it's been that the conferences were inferior at the G5 level. I don't think that conference is inferior this year relative to some of the Power 5 stuff we're trying to pass off out there.
Does Mike Arisco have a point here in trying to continue to push this Power 6 narrative with the recent expansion?
No, and I don't think that if they get their way, it really matters. I mean, aren't we allegedly, as I get drugged behind the cart kicking and screaming, aren't we allegedly moving towards a 12-team playoff field?
Right.
Does it matter much in the grand scheme of things? And also, I mean, I was told that when we have all this expansion and we have not only conference expansion, but we have playoff expansion, I was told that it kind of dissolves any need to use that language anymore. I don't know, though. I don't keep up with that all that much.
12:46 Thursday afternoon. The great Josh Pate. That's what you need to start putting up here. Quit putting the on the phone, Josh. The great Josh Pate joining us here on JB and Goldwater. All right, Josh. So you mentioned, all right, if Bama wins out, beats Georgia. I love hypotheticals. It's October. It's time for hypotheticals. Bama wins out, beats Georgia in the title game. They're both in. What scenario is out there that this could happen for the Big Ten, where the Big Ten could get two teams in?
Well, let me ask you this question. I'm going to do the answer the question with a question, and then I'm going to answer yours. Does it make you feel a little bit of shame that you're throwing out playoff hypotheticals before you've even carved a pumpkin? Yes or no?
No, it does not, because if I'd already carved the pumpkin would be rotting on my steps right now. So no.
Okay, that's fair. See, one time I wet my pants in kindergarten, and my teacher said, "Don't you feel ashamed of yourself?" And I said, just like you, no, I don't feel ashamed of myself. I'm a kindergartner. That's what kindergartners do. They pee their pants. So own it. If you're not ashamed, own it. And that's my message for you today, kids. If you're laying out of school, that's my message for you today. If you pee your pants, own it. Now that you've gotten for a quote edit later, I do think that there's a path to that. So clearly this will involve Ohio State not losing anymore. So if Ohio State is going and they are facing, oh man, how would this work out? Well, here, let me tell you what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is Penn State, if they were to win out, and so they're still a one-loss team, and they get the rematch against Iowa, let's say, in the Big Ten title game, and it was a close game. See, Iowa messed this up this last week.
Yep.
Like I still have it fresh in my mind that Iowa is undefeated because some of the stuff doesn't really process in my mind. That's how great I am. It takes me several days to even realize what happened. I'm trying to think like what the West could offer up. Because I know, like, if Ohio State goes, they're in. If Penn State goes, they're in. I'm trying to think. Wisconsin's messed this up. Obviously, they're way out of the thing. I'm trying to think what would have to happen there. Like, do you guys have the divisions in front of you right now? And
I've got
the standings on the other side? I know what the standings are in the West and in the East. I'm talking about the West.
Yeah.
But
so Iowa's.
You're right though. I mean, Iowa messed it up because how strong is Iowa? And the only way Big Ten's getting two teams in is if, I mean, Ohio State can't lose in the Big Ten championship and get two teams in. Penn State can't lose in the Big Ten championship and get two teams in. Iowa can't lose in the Big Ten championship and get two teams in either.
Well,
they messed up by already losing.
In the interject here, the problem with Iowa is also what's left on the schedule: Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, Illinois, Nebraska. It's not the East. The East has all the hurdles, and they don't have that.
Okay, look how I think it could happen. Here, look, I'm a believer, and I don't know if I'm right on this. I think that most people have been like me, and they've been looking for a reason to ding Iowa, and they finally got it. I think that loss this past weekend to Purdue, a convincing loss, will be a 100-pound like lead balloon tied to their ankle. I don't think that even if they were to run the table, it's hard for me to see them there. Crazier things have happened. But the way you would have to have it happen is Michigan or Michigan State, like one of these undefeateds remains undefeated. They go to the Big Ten title game, and then like maybe Iowa beats them, and something else has happened in these other conferences where now you've got a one-loss Iowa conference champ, a one-loss Michigan State or Michigan. Like both of those teams, keep in mind, have beaten several ranked teams to get to that point in Indianapolis. And if they have a close loss there, I guess that's how that would have to happen. It's a long shot. I think the infinitely greater shot, and I was talking about this with a roundtable we did here at 24/7 the other day. I think there's a chance, as good as the Big Ten looks on paper right now with all these ranked teams, they are not like other conferences. They have not started this round robin sort of death match thing. They've got it coming up. You know, Michigan and Michigan State haven't played each other. Ohio State hasn't played either Michigan State or Michigan yet. Penn State still got to play Ohio State. Penn State still got to play Michigan. So all that stuff's still coming. You know what could happen is they could knock each other out totally, and you end up shockingly having no Big Ten team in there.
It's a great point. You know, the best case scenario, the way I envision it, is Michigan or more than likely Michigan, because you want to extend this thing as long as you can, stays undefeated, and maybe they're up there at number 2 or 3 in the country, and they lose to Ohio State, and Ohio State advances or something like that, but Michigan just doesn't fall, and then everybody around them falls. It's so neat to have the conversation with the playoff at 4, playoff at 12. Guess what? All these teams are probably going to get in. The Big Ten might have 5 representatives when it's all said and done, depending on how things shake out.
Guess what else could happen? Let me tell you what else could happen. Alabama could lose another game and still get in this wonderful, great 12-team playoff everyone's pitching to me. What a great world that would be, huh?
At this point, hey, look, to that point, Josh, if you're the Big Ten, like right now, today, in today's age, I guess if you're all of them, everybody's going to have a crack at it. But if you're the Big Ten and if you're the SEC, there's no reason to not want 12 teams, because the SEC is probably going to get 3 or 4 or 5 teams in. The Big Ten might get 3 or 4 or 5 teams in. They should just have a Big Ten SEC challenge and call it a day.
No, that's what it's going to be called, just by a different name. This is why I've tried to explain to people, like, I'm the least selfish person in this entire argument, because I'm the one over here arguing we need to stay at 4, yet I'm the one who would benefit the most. Because I think unless you're totally, to steal a line from Shawshank Redemption, unless you're totally obtuse to the way college football works, that's exactly what it's going to be. It's just going to be a field loaded up of Big Ten teams and SEC teams. And so if that's really what you want, if you're going to cut off your nose to totally spite your face here, and you're going to stick it to the SEC and the Big Ten by expanding the playoff where infinitely more of those teams can get in, and conversely, hardly any of them are ever out of the mix, then be my guest. If that's what you think makes the sport more exciting, then be my guest.
Yeah, that's where it's headed. So the ACC is not getting a team in this year, Josh. I don't care what happens with Wake Forest. I don't care what happens with Pittsburgh. They can both win all the games. They're not going to get in, and neither one of them are going to win all of their games. But Pittsburgh has Clemson this weekend. It's been a long time since the Tigers have been underdogs in any game in the regular season, and they are 3-point. I think it's still 3-point dogs against Pitt. I want to not necessarily the game. We all know what Clemson's problems are. The same problems that my Gamecocks have. They can't score. But Pittsburgh can score, and the Heisman race, in my mind right now, is seemingly non-existent. It's more like a turtle crawl. I don't know of one player in the country, Josh, that has stepped up and said, "Yeah, I'm the Heisman favorite." But what about Kenny Pickett? Could he be? I mean, although Clemson isn't viewed as elite right now, like some of these other programs, their defense still is. So if he goes out this weekend and has a great game and the Panthers win against the Tigers, he puts up big numbers. Is he a guy who maybe could step up on the leaderboard of the Heisman Trophy?
Well, the answer is yes, and I want to get back to that. Can I ask you a little question about the Heisman? I've never been into the Heisman quite like most college football fans are, but I'm not bagging on anyone. Like, I get why most people are excited by it. I like the team aspect more than the individual stuff, but
sure,
I do pay attention to it. Can someone explain to me why everyone wants to cry for parity when it comes to the actual sport of college football and the teams that are in college football. And we hate how one team dominates. But yet when the Heisman picture has a bunch of parity in it and it's very cloudy and there's no clear leader emerging, why is that called boring? Can anyone explain that to me?
No, I can't, honestly. I think
you're missing the sex appeal. That's why, because you don't have the name that you thought was going to be there, and then people just fall off it, because a lot of times people don't know the name. People still don't know the name Kenny Pickett.
That's right. No, you're nailing it. That's the answer. That's right. Pathetic, because the people who vote on this are allegedly people who are tasked with covering college football. But yet I think the three of us and everyone else listening know that really what you have is you have an apparatus of hundreds of people out there voting, and there's an L word, and I'm going to throw it out here, and maybe I'll get some pushback, but some of them are lazy. Some of them are just flat out lazy. And they don't really know anything about Kenny Pickett. What they know about him is that's that kid who's like 37 years old at this point, and he plays for who? Snaps fingers a couple of times, Pitt. That's where he plays. Yeah, Kenny Pickett's really good. They're putting up 48 points a game this year. They are favored against Clemson. Imagine telling that crowd, the Heisman crowd, imagine telling them Kenny Pickett's going to lead Pitt to a favored position by 3.5 points or 3 points, whatever it is, on a Saturday before Halloween. What do you think now, Mr. Voter? Well, it must mean DJ got hurt. Nope, DJ's still on the field. He's fine. Well, he's not fine, but he's on the field. Like, yeah, everyone should know who Kenny Pickett is. But the same crowd that is too lazy to know who Kenny Pickett is also the same crowd that'll tell you, this is kind of a throwaway Saturday. Well, I think we only get 12 of them a year. And if your job is to cover this sport, there are no throwaway Saturdays, just like there are no throwaway Heisman contenders, throwaway games. Like, it wasn't but a little more than a year ago, guys, we were talking about losing a year of the sport entirely. Man, some people shifted back to this throwaway weekend and boring Heisman Trophy race really quick.
Oh, you are dead on, my friend. I totally agree with that. It's people around here who complain about how bad our teams are. Well, I'm not going until they're any better. I'm like, well, last year all you did was bitch and moan because they might not play football, and this year they're playing football and you're not going to go. You can't say that any better. All right, Josh. So, final couple minutes. I know I got to let you run here, but so 2 weeks ago, our dear friend Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network, or not 2 weeks ago, last week, noted that this past weekend's upcoming slate of games wasn't, quote, as sexy as the week prior, obviously, because there weren't ranked matchups. You know, the eye poppers that they can run commercials and promos off of on ESPN, ABC, and pretty much everything else. But Darren and I, throughout the week, talked with Mike and others about, hey, yeah, it might not be sexy, but these are generally the weekends when crazy things happen, and we did see some crazy things happen. Iowa falls, and college football has just been magnificent this year. Now, this week, outside of the Iowa State-Oklahoma State line, 7 in favor of the Cyclones, what's on your radar? It's, again, not as, quote, sexy, but there are some games out there that are, in my eyes, very, very intriguing. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I got my eye on Ohio State going to Indiana.
Whoa.
And it really has nothing to do with the fact that Indiana pushed them last year. I just now thought of that as I just said the thing to you. So this is independent of anything last year. Here's what's happening right now. And this is not meant to discount Ohio State. I think they are firmly in the playoff mix. I've got them as my number 3 team in the country. So I don't doubt the validity of Ohio State. But I also don't doubt the vulnerability because everyone's got it this year. Ohio State right now, you've already seen them lose and kind of get handled by Oregon in doing so. And Oregon was without 2 of their best defensive players that day. So it's not like Oregon came in there shot out of a cannon by any stretch. Oregon still got the job done. Oregon is not a great football team. At the time, Ohio State wasn't either. Now, they made some defensive staff changes, okay, and they look like they've got things somewhat rectified. The problem is it's kind of like Tennessee the last 2 weeks before they played Ole Miss. They were scoring like 40 points per first half, but they were playing terrible defenses to do it. Sometimes a great team takes care of inferior competition. Other times, a pretty good team gets fat on inferior competition and fools you into thinking they're a great team. What I question is whether Ohio State is the former or the latter. I wonder if over the last couple of weeks, because really, if we're being honest with ourselves, you haven't paid much attention to Ohio State. Since they lost to Oregon, they haven't been on your radar. And that's fine because they haven't really played high-profile opponents. And now here they are. And this is not in and of itself going to be a high-profile marquee game, but they're going to Indiana. Indiana is fresh off a loss that they should have had as a win. They lost a game to Michigan State where they, I think, had 10 more first downs. They outgained them by 80 yards. They ran like 20 or 25 more plays. It was turnovers, of course, that got them. I think Indiana had 13 defensive points. Turnovers are very random in nature. Iowa found this out. You can't just depend on turnovers every week. Well, Indiana's been the anti-Iowa. Indiana has been plagued by turnovers all year. Now, that has already sealed their fate as it relates to any kind of meaningful, like, Big Ten stretch run or playoff run. But what I also think about teams like that is there is some random game in their future where turnovers all of a sudden are going to flip for them. And they're just going to have, you can't explain it, you can't predict it, but they're going to have +1 or +2 turnovers that day. If that were to happen for Indiana this Saturday, they can throw the ball well enough against Ohio State's still, in my opinion, somewhat shaky secondary, to where even if they don't beat them, it's a game that is a little more high scoring than you think it should be. It's a little closer than you think it should be. And maybe it's still a game in the fourth quarter when you think it shouldn't be. Now, if they upset them, obviously that's the biggest news of the day. But also, Ohio State's coming off a bye. They have no excuse to not handle Indiana. If that game's close, then I think it spells trouble for Ohio State the rest of the way, because they got Penn State the following week. Sean Clifford looks to be back. And so what I'm looking for at the very least in that Indiana-Ohio State game is if they go out there and rip Indiana's throat out, then that's one thing. If they struggle to put them away, then I think that puts on the platter a potential kind of bumper car scenario in the Big Ten down the stretch like we just talked about a few minutes ago.
Come on, Buckeyes, pay attention.
It was good to see Sean Clifford back, by the way, speaking as a Penn State alum. Those were good pictures on Twitter yesterday.
Good.
Yeah, I'm all for, by the way, if I were a player, I am all for the cryptic, like if there's an injury, if people think I'm going to be injured, I would never just announce I'm back. I would never just let the athletic department announce that or just show up at practice. I would put 15 different cryptic Instagram posts and tweets out. I would build it. I mean, I would handle it like a pro wrestler making his return. I would market the you-know-what out of my return from injury.
Clifford just tuned up. I think he said sup. I think that's what he did. I think he retweeted him with a picture, just sup.
This missed opportunity there on Sean's part. I mean, I really want the selfish guys on my team. Don't give me the selfless, I'm all here for the team. No, I want the selfish guys on my team. I want the Instagram stars. I mean, I think that's how Bear Bryant did it at Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Josh. Hey, real quick before we go, Wake Forest Army tomorrow. None of our audience will probably be paying attention to this, but should they be? Undefeated Wake?
I'm stalling right here so I can look at what's the line on that right now.
3. It was 3. This could be part of the Friday Night Lines conversation tomorrow.
3. Okay, I see it now. Okay. Well, what a dichotomy in styles. Yeah, I pay attention to it. You know what's funny about Wake is they're like 15 or 16 or something like that, and they're undefeated. And I think what you guys said earlier is true. That the spirit of what you said earlier is true. No one expects them to be in the playoff. Like no one is putting them in any kind of predictive model, only because you're just counting on the fact that they're going to lose games. Like you view that as a fact. And I do too, for the record. But I really wonder, what if they just kept winning? Like how would they be handled? Because Wake is this year's G5 team, even though they're in a Power 5 conference. They are in the spot that Cincinnati or Central Florida would be, in that they're undefeated but not taken seriously. They don't have any respect. Well, then they're Cincinnati squarely inside the top 3 or top 2 or wherever they are. So it's funny how those roles have reversed.
That is a very interesting way to look at that, and didn't even think about it. Let's see. Is Wake? Oh, Josh, you don't even have Wake Forest in your top 25 poll. Oh my gosh.
I believe in them. Oh, absolutely. No, I've sold them right down the river. I'm just saying, if they prove everyone wrong, including myself, I want to build in a soundbite where I can come back on here where everyone else is ashamed of themselves and say, told you guys.
Yeah. These rankings of yours are terrible. These ranking ratings. Yeah. Josh, you're seriously one of the best. It's always an honor to have you on. We really appreciate it, man. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. Steer clear of the storms and right into football. And we'll get you back here pretty soon. We got playoff rankings coming up. We got head coaching vacancies. Got a bunch of stuff to talk about down the stretch. So we're looking forward to that.
I appreciate it. Anytime, guys.
Later, man.
Yeah, there you go. Josh Pate. 104, time for a timeout. We're late. David Shelton is standing by. When we return, we'll get to Friday Night Lights. We still have our resume. We're going to pass that along. It's a good one. And we got Scott Glaze as well. Jam-packed final hour right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, presented by Motley Rice. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour, JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Welcome back, JB and Darren, taking you until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks to Josh Pate there in that last segment. Always great to catch up with him. We do have Scott Glaze ahead as well. Make sure you've downloaded the JB and Goldwater app, jbandgoldwatershow.com. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. At D Shelton 66 is who you should follow on Twitter if you want to keep up with high school sports. He's one of the best, if not the best, in the whole state. We're lucky to have him around here on Thursdays. Another round of Friday Night Lights headed your way tomorrow, and he's here to talk about it now. What's up, Mr. Mac and Cheese?
What is up, dudes?
All right, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Darren, what's on TV tomorrow night?
Nothing. I've got the night off.
Whoa.
It was David, you're in good
Hey,
shape.
guys, I get a text message every Thursday, pre-dawn hours when I'm still asleep from Mr. Goldwater. And, he says, 105 today, good? And tells me where he's going to be on Friday night. And when I saw no TV game this week, I literally sprung out of bed and did 10 jumping jacks and 12 push-ups.
To be fair, I mean, last week's game didn't take too long. I mean, I guess it kind of dragged. It dragged on.
No, because Oceanside got the lead and just started running the ball every play, which is awesome.
Yes.
They didn't try that passing game, which they were doing early, and I was kind of like, they got these monsters up front, and they got a really good running back. You might ought to run it more. Well, they ran it. They ran it last week against hand-to-hand and did it very well.
Yeah. We, for the record, we're supposed to do Fort Dorchester and West Ashley. The game is still on, but because of the hacks in the whole Sinclair nationwide system, the local group, they've been working their tails off. So it just, instead of pushing them harder and having them work another late night, I mean, they've been burning the midnight oil anyway, just trying to deal with it and just get their jobs done. So odds are we'll add a game, the 11-5, November 5, to the back end of the schedule. Odds are.
Okay.
All right. There you go. I'm glad it's cleared up. So
keep me posted.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I know.
We're all in pins and needles here, especially David. All right. Well, I tell you what. Let's start with a game tomorrow night where the combined record is 14-1. Philip Simmons and Timberland. Philip Simmons at 7-1. Timberland is undefeated. How about Philip Simmons, man? I sent Eric Bendig a message last week. That's impressive stuff, what they're doing up there, as young as that program is. But this is the biggest challenge and hurdle they'll have all year, David, 7:30 tomorrow night with Timberland calling. So what do you think about this ball game, and how about what Bendig's been able to do out there with the War Horses?
Well, I think enough of the ball game that I'm going to be there. So that means it's a pretty big deal. But, they beat Timberland last year 3-0, but Timberland was not Timberland. The COVID thing just really affected Timberland last year, and they've had some issues this year, but they were early, and they played a pretty good schedule, and they're undefeated. But Philip Simmons, when the schedule came out, I circled 2 games on their schedule that I thought they would have trouble winning. One was hand-to-hand, and they lost, but they played very well. And the other one was this one, the Timberland game. I thought they would be better than Woodland this year. Woodland just lost a lot of personnel, and the rest of their games were not very difficult for them. So I felt like the 2 games that would really test them would be Timberland and hand-to-hand. And I think Timberland will test them, but I think this team is much more equipped for this type of game. This is like a playoff game in terms of the competition level. In 2A, there are not a lot of powerhouses in the lower state. Silver Bluff is really good, and you got Barnwell, and, usually Andrews or Marion or both are pretty decent, and then usually Timberland. And so I think this is a game that will test them, that will find out where they are. And if they win, they're going to win the region. So that's home field. That's at least 2 rounds. I haven't looked at the brackets, but unless there's, if they lose in the first round, but if they win, they'll get to at least 2 home games, which would be huge for that young program. But in response to your question about what Eric and his staff have done, I think it's been really good. I think it has helped that they are 2A and that they haven't had to jump into like 3A right off the bat or something like that. I think eventually they may get realigned as a 3A school, but it's helped very much that they were 2A, and they've been able to schedule some games with 2As and 1As that allow them to kind of build some confidence. And that's really, that's really what it's all about is being confident and they were young when they started, kind of like Lucy Beckham, but they're going to get better. And now they have a really solid upperclassmen group that have played a lot of football and have experienced success the last 2 years. But, if you'd asked me, would Philip Simmons be ranked in the top 10 in 2A, this late in the season, I would have been a 50-50. I wasn't sure, but I thought they were going to be much better. And I saw them in the Jamboree early in the year, and I liked some of the pieces. Their linebackers run really well, and they're very active. They play very physical. Mm-hmm. That's one thing about the Iron Horses is they get after your butt pretty good. The whole thing is their defense is very solid, and their defense not only scores points, but they also set the offense up with turnovers, and that has really helped them. I think it's going to be a great game because I think Timberland is they got a sophomore quarterback that is really good, and they played a good schedule and have remained undefeated. So I know they're going to be, Timberland's going to be extremely fired up to try to avenge last year's 3-0 loss. But having said that, if it comes down to the kicking game, Philip Simmons is going to win this game because they got a really good kicker in Griffin Gore. Makes extra points, makes field goals. They're good on special teams. So games like this, two evenly matched teams, the one with the special teams is going to win. And Philip Simmons got way better special teams, no question.
Yeah, I can't wait for this game. I really can't. I wish I could watch it, but I can't, thanks to guys like Darren who aren't willing to work tomorrow night. No, but we'll be keeping up with you, David, to figure out what's going on up there. It's just remarkable that they're 7-1. Congrats to Eric Bendig and staff. All right, so let's get to Region 7, 5A here. Tell me where things stand. Goose Creek and Wando play tomorrow night. I think Berkeley and Stratford play tomorrow night as well. So kind of break down that region, where things stand from a playoff standpoint, and your thoughts on those couple of ball games.
Well, Goose Creek's going to win the region. They're going to be the region champions. It looks like the winner of the Berkeley-Stratford game is going to get in the playoff. It doesn't look like Wando is going to make the playoffs. I hate to break your heart, but
it's okay.
Because they're going to probably finish last in that league because they haven't beaten anybody. And I don't think they're going to beat Goose Creek. But
are you just emptying a can of salt?
This is getting better by the second.
I don't know. I don't know how many other ways I can say it, but this is not enough on Wando. They've had some issues with injuries.
Had a lot of injuries. Yeah.
It just hasn't been a very consistent, smooth road. I thought they would beat Stratford, and they didn't, and I think that's going to hurt their playoff chances. So, the Berkeley-Stratford winner will probably, if it's Berkeley, then Berkeley and Cane Bay will play next week for second and third. Stratford will end up fourth with their win over Wando. So, but yeah, it's probably going to end up Goose Creek, Cane Bay, Berkeley, Stratford in the playoffs. And quite honestly, depending on the matchups, I think Goose Creek can win a first round game, but those other three they're gonna have to play very well to win a first round game, depending on the matchups. It may be depending on the Somerville Fort game next week, it could be the runner up in Region 7 would play Somerville. Because West Ashley beat Somerville, and we'll get to that region in a second. But it could be some area matchups that don't go well for the locals and or for Region 7. Like I said, I think Goose Creek is just far and away the best team in that league, which is no surprise. Berkeley losing to Ashley Ridge last week and didn't score. That is a concern, and I think they lost their best running back. So that's why I kind of feel like Cane Bay is going to be the runner-up, and then Berkeley Stratford will be 3-4 in whatever order, depending on who wins that game.
Now that that's over, let's get to Region 8. Region
8 is Fort Dorchester. I mean, West Ashley could could make things difficult.
Hey, wait. Hold on.
I don't think they can.
Hold on. Speaking of cans of salt, just because y'all just dumped a canister on top of mine. What the hell happened in the West Ashley Somerville game last week? I mean, I just happened to come across the score and said, "Oh my God, wow!" What happened?
Turnovers.
Wow.
Somerville turned it over. Their starting quarterback was hurt. I want to say they had 2 picks and 2 fumbles lost. I'm pretty sure it was 4. Might have been 5, but I'm pretty sure it was 4. And a lot of them came early. And West Ashley had great field position and took advantage of it and got out ahead so quick that Somerville really didn't have a chance to come back. And West Ashley is starting to put things together. I mean, Jaleel Porter was really a non-factor in that game, and they still put up 35 points. Daquan Smith played really well in his place. But they need Jaleel Porter. West Ashley needs Porter healthy and on the field if they've got any chance of beating Fort Dorchester tomorrow, and if they have any chance of doing any damage in the playoffs. They got to have you got to have your best guys, and Jaleel Porter's their best guy. And if he's healthy, and I still think they're going to have a hard time beating Fort Dorchester because they're very one-dimensional, and Fort's front 7 are really good. Well, their whole defense is really good. So I think West Ashley, even with a healthy Porter, they're going to have to be able to have success and balance that offense out, and I just don't know that they'll be able to. Defensively, they'll be very competitive, and they'll be in the game defensively, but I don't see them beating Fort. And basically, the other game in that region, Somerville Ashley Ridge, again, the winner will probably stay out of the 4 slot. The loser will be in the 4 slot because Stahl's the other team. Isn't it weird that the 2 teams in the Region 7 and Region 8 are nicknamed the Warriors, and they're not going to make the playoffs? That just hit me. I don't even know why that hit me, but
start drinking next week before I talk to you.
Yeah, but I think Somerville Ashley Ridge winner will probably finish 3rd. West Ashley, if let's say beat Fort Dorchester, will finish 2nd, and Fort Dorchester will be 1st. And again, probably have a couple of those teams probably have an opportunity to win a game or 2, but just like Region 7, where I think Goose Creek is clearly the best team, I just kind of believe that Fort Dorchester is clearly the better team in that region. They're the 2 best teams in the area, without a doubt in my mind.
Dave, something that struck me seeing West Ashley in person, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever we saw them, how small the roster is. Like, they've got 30 some guys on a 5A roster.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, they have low numbers. And I talked with Donnie Kiefer earlier this week, and they have a numbers problem. Now, they have a good many on JV. I think their JV roster was over 50, but I think their varsity roster is under 40. And that's just kind of the way it is. They just didn't have a lot of numbers, and they lost one of their best defensive linemen in preseason, LeBron Anderson. Then they had the COVID thing, and they started 0-3, and now they're putting it together, and which may be a good thing that they're putting it together now. Those early losses, they didn't hurt them because they don't count basically in the playoff picture. So, but yeah, their numbers are. But West Ashley's never had great numbers for a 5A school. They've never just, they've never had Fort Dorchester type numbers. And for whatever reason, I don't know if the kids don't play or maybe they got a lot of kids ineligible. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think the ineligibility is a problem. I think there's just Donnie's really having a hard time, just as Bobby Marion before him, getting a lot of the kids out. But their roster is among the smallest in 5A. I would say it's probably. I mean, I think Stahl has more guys on their roster. I would have to check that and count them because it's pretty close. But West Ashley is one of the smallest rosters on the 5A level. I mean, that's like a 3A roster.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Hey, speaking of Somerville, too, by the way, they better be careful. West Ashley is pretty good defensively and only mustered 12 points last week. Ashley Ridge is good defensively. The Wave have them this week, and then they got Fort next week. So if they're not careful, 4-2 can look like 4-4 real quick up there in Somerville. It's going to be a
yeah. Somerville's a solid football team, and they won. The win over Berkeley. We're not sure how good Berkeley is. Then the win over Goose Creek was an impressive win, but they really haven't been able to build on that. I mean, they beat Stahl, but they really haven't been able to build on those early wins. So tomorrow is very important for Somerville. I mean, one, you want to stay out of the 4 spot, and 2, you want to give yourself a chance to win the region, which they would do if they could beat Fort Dorchester. But Ashley Ridge will give them a defense, but now Somerville's defense is really good too, and Ashley Ridge is not very good on offense. So, I mean, that game could end up like a 7-6, 7-0, 10-7 type game. There ain't no question. I don't see a lot of points being scored.
David Shelton, 126 on his Thursday afternoon. Elsewhere around the state, David, how about Lexington and Dutch Fork? At Dutch Fork this weekend, the Wildcats are 6-1. Of course, Dutch Fork is undefeated. They have been since 1986. It seems that way. Lexington's having a great year, but does that mean that they have a chance to pull an upset tomorrow night against Dutch Fork?
No, that does not mean they have a chance to pull an upset. I mean, they are having a good year, and good for them. But as I've said many times on our Friday night scoreboard show with Phil Kornblut, Dutch Fork is at a different level. They're a different animal. They are, they only scored 48 points last week only, and that was against a pretty good River Bluff team. They're going to score 40 every time they walk on the field. So you've got to be able to score 41. The problem is you can't do it on their defense. So, like I keep saying this, I mean, they're going to lose at some point. 56, I think it's 56 or 57 in a row. They're going to lose at some point, but I don't know that it's going to be this year. And frankly, I mean, they got some really good underclassmen there. I mean, I don't know. They're at a different level. They may lose in the playoffs, but I was asked the other night, does anybody in the lower state got anything for them? And I think Fort has something for them. Not sure what, but we'd have to wait and see how it plays out, when the game is and injuries and things like that. I think Sumter's pretty good in the lower state. I'm just telling you, man, Dutch Fork they're just at a different level right now, and everybody is chasing them, and the gap seems to be widening. Now, there are some teams in the upstate that are pretty good. But in the lower state, I mean, Dutch Fork has just really got it going. I mean, they're really good.
Greenville is in the upstate. They're at Greenwood this weekend. That's another 6-1 versus 6-1 matchup. Greenwood, of course, the home of DJ Swearinger, amongst many. It's a great football town. But
that's going to be a heck of a football game. That's going to be one heck of a football game.
I don't know much about Greenville. I don't know much about Greenville. I obviously, outside of being 6-1, I mean, I know they've gotten things turned around up there, but I just don't know much about them. Fill me in a little bit in their matchup with Greenwood.
Well, they're very talented. The state's top lineman, Colin Sadler, is committed to Clemson. Their tight end just committed to Clemson, Patrick Sapp's son, Josh Sapp. Really explosive on offense, really good on defense, a lot of good athletes. The guy that took that program over was Greg Porter, who built the Hillcrest program into a major power, won a state championship, beat Dutch Fork in a state championship game a few years ago. And he went over to Greenville, and they were already fairly decent. They were already a 7, 8, 9 win type team. And he just took them to another level. They're very good on both sides of the ball. The only loss was to a really good Northwestern team. But Greenwood can play. Greenwood's defense is legit. That's going to be a knockdown, drag out. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. And seeing in Greenwood, you know, you might like the home team there, but Greenwood moved up to number 1 in 4A this week, and it might be short lived. They might not be there but a week, but I'm telling you, they're really good. And I picked them back in August. I kind of picked them as one of the 2 or 3 teams I thought would win the upper state in 4A, and they've proven that they're pretty darn good. And they got some really good underclassmen too. But Sapp and Sadler are you know, they're big time players, and a lot of people don't even realize that that's where they go and play, but that's where they go to school. You know, but that's where they play, and they're pretty good.
Greenwood, another great football town here in South Carolina. And then you've also got 5-1 Myrtle Beach at 7-1 South Florence, David, and a pretty interesting game here. South Florence has come a long way. Myrtle Beach clearly has come a long way too, but South Florence, they got them at home tomorrow night. That's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, they got them in their new stadium, and you know, it's going to be for that region title, so a number 1 seed is on the line there. Those are the 2 best teams in that region, and South Florence has a really good quarterback. Well, so does Myrtle Beach, but Lenora Sellers is a junior who's committed to Virginia, and he's been hurt the last 2 weeks, and I don't know if he's going to play Friday. I haven't really checked. If he plays, South Florence has got a great chance to beat Myrtle Beach. If he doesn't, I like Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach is, you know, they do have a really good quarterback that's headed to App State, and they've got a receiver, Adam Randall, that is the best in the South Carolina, and just a great football player. They've been really good on defense, and that's you know, that's kind of scary when they've always been good on offense, and some years the defense just had to show up and make a few stops, and then the offense scores 40, and you know, they win games 42-20. But this year, that defense has been really good. I mean, they did give up some points to Oceanside, but Oceanside's a pretty good team, and that was Myrtle Beach's first game of the year after being out for COVID for a couple of weeks. So they're starting to put it together. But like I said, I mean, if the Bruins have their quarterback, he gives them a real shot to win. The backup hadn't been bad, but the starter, Sellers, I mean, he is a special talent. If anybody listening goes on their Huddle, South Florence Huddle account, and click on Lamar Sellers' name and watch his video, he's a really good football player, and they need him in the biggest games. And if they get him back and he is healthy in the playoffs, they're going to have a pretty good run.
David Shelton with the Post and Courier's got you covered week in and week out in high school sports. David, one final big important question. Do the Braves head to the World Series tonight in L.A.? You know,
I think they're going to win that series, but I said from the beginning I thought it was coming back to Atlanta. I mean, I know they're playing so well right now, and everybody just, it bothers me as a fan when everybody starts counting out the Dodgers. I'm just like, I don't go that route. You know, they got to throw their bullpen tonight. Well, I know they're tired, but it is a very proud program, traditionally strong, proud organization. But I'll tell you this, there's no question in my mind who the better team is. I mean, if you've watched all the games, the better team is in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it takes the Saturday, to come back, but I mean, I hope they wrap it up tonight for the sake of my son who is going bonkers. And with me, I'm old now, so if I get too excited, I'm afraid I'll have a heart attack. So I just kind of nod my head and say, "Yeah, that's nice." But I want him to get to the World Series. And I want them to beat the Red Sox so bad, pound them into submission. But it'll probably be the Astros, and that's okay. But getting to the World Series will be a lot of fun.
I just saw a stat that I didn't realize until a couple minutes ago. Sarah Langs, by the way, if you're a baseball fan, is an awesome follow on Twitter. Most consecutive postseason appearances not leading to a title. Braves at 16 is the longest. It is current, and it is also the longest all-time streak, consecutive postseason appearances without a title.
Wow. Just in baseball.
They've only won one, and they've been good enough to win it many years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you got to get there first. And if they get there, I think a lot of Braves fans, especially without Acuna and Soroka, it really is a good story. I saw something yesterday where on August 2nd, they were like 52 and 55.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And here they are now, one game from the World Series. It really is a cool story. And they're fun. They're fun to watch with Albies and Riley, Jock Peterson. They're a fun team to watch.
They are. And David, as well as anybody out there, being the baseball guy that you are, you could be the best team in the country or in the league this time of year. But if you're the hottest team, you've got as good a chance as anybody. And right now, the Braves are the hottest team in baseball. And
it's all about momentum. About momentum in baseball, man. You just get it going, and thankfully the Dodgers don't have Kershaw and Trevor Bauer.
Right.
So this series might be a heck of a lot different. But hey, the Braves don't have their full. They don't have their full load either. So a lot of people talk about Dodgers pitching injuries and all that. Well, at this time of the year, everybody's injured. So you just don't play.
Well, they still won 106 games. It's not like they're bad. It kind of is what it is. Don't tell the Braves that. They don't give a crap. It's one more win, and they're in 5 away from winning a world championship. Holy moly. David, I hope we get to enjoy all this pretty soon. Next time we talk to you, they could be well underway in a World Series. We'll see. But certainly looking forward to the coverage tomorrow night. As always, you're the best at it. High school football under the lights on Friday night. We'll be following along, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.
Okay, guys. Take care.
See you, man.
Thank you. David Shelton with the Post and Courier. More affordable, more options, user-friendly. ShareHealthcare.com is where you want to go. If you don't have health insurance or if yours is very expensive, you need to replace that with something, Share Healthcare. I'm telling you. Head to ShareHealthcare.com and check it out there. And we certainly always appreciate all of you commenting in our Share Healthcare chat lines. It's also Thursday, so if you're in the West Ashley area, buy one, get one half off foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's Cheesesteaks. Buy one, get one half off foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's if you're in the Low Country and in the West Ashley area. Also, if you're in the Low Country and you're in the Mount Pleasant or the Clements Ferry Road area, why not go get hammered at the Dog and Duck and order about 6 cheeseburgers?
Or just do it responsibly as opposed to getting hammered. But then, get yourself some food, get yourself some wings. They've got their own beer. The D2 Brew is their own beer that they've got, a collaboration with, was it Cooper River, I think?
Yeah.
So lots of good things. I love
it. They will be showing the Braves game tonight, right?
They show everything, man. And I know they've got new TVs in all their locations too. Like nice new TVs to the point where almost every day I'm looking at them saying, I need a new TV in my house. And that's the way it goes with me. That's once it starts down that road of me seeing something and like, oh, I like that. I like that. I want that. It appears. It's going to happen. There will be a new TV downstairs. Yeah.
Hope it's not at the expense of ripping one off the wall at the Dog and Duck. That would not be good. So to Darren's point, if you don't have a TV in your house and you don't have any booze, you need to head to the Dog and Duck to be able to catch some sports. If you're a Braves fan and you want to celebrate, not wake the kids up, head to the Dog and Duck. We come up with everything in the world. By the way, I saw David's bourbon makes everything better. So I'll never drink this, David. This is I'm a Buffalo Trace guy. I don't know of anybody that doesn't like Woodford as well. I've been to both distilleries in Kentucky, but I'll never drink this. I'm going to put it up to the screen if you can read it. Yeah. It is the 2017 commemorative USC men's and women's Final Four Woodford Reserve bourbon. So this stays on my shelf, and maybe I'll drink it if the men ever win a national championship.
Well, hang on. Like, that's awesome, but it's not like you're ever going to turn around and sell that thing. So drink the bourbon and then put some water in and color it the right way.
Nope. It means too much. I will not drink it, nor will I drink that one right back there for my bachelor party. Yeah.
I'm a fan of drinking the alcohol that I have.
I'm one of these weird guys.
Yeah. I like to drink the alcohol that isn't. generally speaking.
I also have Paul Bear Bryant Alabama Coke bottles that I'll never drink either.
I've got Paterno and Penn State Coke bottles that I will not drink, but that's different. That's not alcohol. And then
I'm not an Alabama fan.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that's
yeah.
And you can't really refill that. You could refill the other bottle.
Had somebody give those to me in a garage sale. Yeah, I mean, these are my husband's. I don't really know what to do with them. I was like, oh, I'll take them. Yeah, I was in college. I still have them.
Yeah.
All right, 1:40 on a Thursday afternoon. Before we go to break, the Post Up Careers weekend college football resume, as Mike Morgan so eloquently said last Tuesday, very similar to this week. It's not as, quote, sexy as it may have been a couple of weeks ago, but there are upsets that will happen this weekend. We'll pick our games tomorrow, headlined by the in-state games, Carolina at A&M and Clemson at Pitt. Last night at in-state, Coastal falls at App, so their undefeated season is over. Careful, Oregon on the road at UCLA.
UCLA is favored in that game.
Yeah, that's the site of game day. It is going to be a 3 a.m. wake-up call out there for those boys to get on the air, 6 a.m. West Coast time. Certainly one to keep an eye on, as is Iowa State hosting undefeated Oklahoma State this weekend. So there are some really neat football games. It's a great weekend in college football because college football is being played. That's why it's a great week.
Post Up Careers, you can get to Franklin. You can find him online. You can find him on Twitter. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's all over that because that's what he specializes in, Post Up Careers. LinkedIn optimization, resume perfection, basically. If you want to enhance your career, take the next step in it, or change your career, that's what Post Up Careers is for. They're active in the NIL game, too. They just signed 2 new student athletes, both from USC Aiken, because that's where Franklin is from. 2 hoopers from UNC Aiken, Samba Njai and Preston Parks. So they both get their own resume written by Franklin. They get their LinkedIn page optimized for their post-playing career days. And then there's a link on their social media pages how you can go get a discount code through them, through Post Up Careers, to get your resume and LinkedIn page optimized.
Franklin, what you're doing for young men and young women is so invaluable. It's crazy. Teaching people at this age what they need to do and need to know to advance their lives and their careers. Just sensational. I'm so happy we work with him. And there's a lot of young folks that don't know how to do it, and he can teach you how to do it.
Yep.
Post Up Careers, and we certainly appreciate their partnership with us here on JB and Goldwater. All right, Power Hour continues, brought to you by Wando Power Equipment. Rent literally anything in the world. Literally anything in the world. WandoPower.com over on Daniel Island. When we return, Scott Glaze joins us from Hollywood, the original and the only beautiful Hollywood left in America. I'm just kidding. Hollywood out California. I'm sure it's fine, but it's not like this one. Scott's next, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor, Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
You're welcome, Patrick. Talked to Patrick Davis this morning, as a matter of fact. He is he's in town today, Darren. He invited me to hang out with him tonight, but I cannot do that. So I just want to let you know that I can't hang out with Patrick tonight. But he'll be back. He'll be back soon. He has something very special for Gamecock fans coming their way in a couple of weeks. So I think people will be excited about that. Also, keep your eyes tuned to the College of Charleston's baseball program today, expecting a major announcement from them as well. And very soon, we'll have Coach Holbrook on with us, and he can elaborate on that a little bit more. Speaking of the College of Charleston, this guy knows a little bit about the Cougars. I think he played badminton or something down there. Scott Glaze, the head golf pro out at Stono Ferry in beautiful Hollywood, South Carolina. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? Beautiful week, beautiful time for golf.
I like the pennant.
That's right. I had to replace the wrong shoulder. Had to replace the CFC pennant. It's hey, not over till it's over.
Yeah,
I've seen this story far too many times.
Yeah, apparently, according to Darren, 16 straight times when they're in the playoffs, they haven't been able to win a World Series. But I don't know. Tonight might be the night that gets them at least back into the Fall Classic for the first time since 1999. First time in this century. And you were born in what, 03 or 04? So
I was born in 88. I was 11 the last time. But I tell you what, those teams from the 90s, I can rattle off like the roster every year. Man, those were good teams. But
isn't it not to talk golf with you, but isn't it kind of strange to think about how we, because in 95 when they won it, I was 10 I was 10. And to think back to some of those players, the way you viewed them, and now the way that you look at big league players and you compare like the Braves roster now to what they were then, and you think, man, like, I hate to say it like this, but like, Mark Lemke wasn't really that good, or Jeff Blauser.
Yeah.
He wasn't really that good, but like he was an icon to me. I mean, he was Jeff Blauser or Mark Lemke.
Sid Bream wasn't fast, and Francisco Cabrera wasn't good at all.
Yeah,
right.
That happened.
Otis Nixon was really good at putting cocaine up his nose, but like, how good was he? Handling the bat. But they won the World Series in 1995. So you just never know. It's just funny to look back the way you saw it then and see it now. That's all.
Oh yeah, I agree totally. Like Ryan Klesko. I mean, that guy probably.
Hey, easy, pal.
Hey, I mean, I love Klesko, but I mean, very serviceable major league player. But all that whole 27-man roster, that was
dude. But his shades are what made him. When he put the glasses on, he reminded me of Jack Parkman from Major League, except for he was a left-handed hitter. Parkman was a righty.
That's pretty good comp right there. I like that.
I know. I'm telling you. What about Hiroshi Iwata? Who does he remind you of? He's leading at 7 under in the Zozo.
Well, he's a big name over in Japan. He was actually, I believe, unless I'm wrong, he was Japan's other representative in the Olympic Games a few months ago. This Zozo is it the Zozo? It shows you how
The
big
championship.
of a tournament it is. Championship. I almost called it Cup. The Zozo Championship. Huge event a few years ago when Tiger won. That is his last PGA Tour victory was the Zozo. What I find very interesting about this golf course, if you do happen to watch any golf, there are 2 greens on every hole. It's absurd. The popularity of golf in Japan is they make some of these golf courses with multiple greens so they can put even more people out on the golf course. And they're basically playing the same course, but 2 golf courses. So it can be kind of confusing when you watch the coverage and you're watching these approach shots or somebody on the green. You say, hey, wait, there's another green right there. But this is a limited field event. A lot of Japanese or Asian-born players in the event and get exemptions into this since it is over in Japan. Big purse, over $9.5 million, and will be the last big purse that we have on tour for a while, probably until 2022. But tough to watch. It's tough to watch golf this time of year anyway, with its competition with the baseball playoffs and college football and NFL football. But when they're playing with the time change over in Japan, makes it a lot tougher. But we are seeing some really great golf. 63 yesterday out of Iwata, Joaquin Niemann. He's a familiar name right there at the top. And Hideki Matsuyama, who I would think would be the favorite to win this event, the reigning Masters champion in his home country of Japan. When you scroll through, we do have some more notable names. Tommy Fleetwood is there. Let's see as I keep going. Will Zalatoris, Keegan Bradley, Ricky Fowler, so on and so forth. South Carolina's own Matt Neesmith and South Carolina's own Wesley Bryan is back on the PGA Tour this week after coming off of injury. So a lot of good storylines to watch in Zozo coming off of what was a really, really exciting and fulfilling week last week in golf.
Why, if you're a bigger name over here in America, why play in this tournament?
I think I mean, $9.5 million purse certainly helps.
Okay.
It is. Yeah, it's $9.5 million. It's going to get split up amongst these guys. There's no cut, so it is a limited field. I think there are about 78 players or so, 76 maybe. But it is there's good money to be made. The problem is that it is a trip over to Japan, kind of right just in the middle of no international travel. I mean, even if you're a guy playing on the European tour, they're having a run right now through Spain. This is the 3rd week in a row that the European tour's in Spain. I mean, it's just not easy to get over there to Japan. So I'm sure this will be it. When we look at the schedule, we've got the Bermuda Championship next week. The week after that, we're in Mayakoba, and then in Houston, which that Houston Open is not as big or as popular of an event as it used to be. And then we're in Sea Island, close by at the RSM. And then it's kind of the silly season until we start again in January. So I think this will probably be the last time that we see the likes of Xander Schauffele, Ricky Fowler, Will Zalatoris, Hideki Matsuyama, these bigger, more household names. So could just be a kind of last hoorah before shutting it down for a little bit.
Now, is Joaquin Niemann related to Joaquin Phoenix?
No, I don't. Yeah, he has no claim to walk the line or.
I just wanted.
Yeah, no. I don't even think they might have some similarities there in appearance, but no, just in name only.
Now, what about Hideki Matsuyama in relationship to Hideki Matsui?
No.
Okay. All right.
No relation there.
I just want to make sure that I was right about that. Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's not a ton going on in the world of golf right now. I'll be honest with you. The story that is sticking in my head with golf is where's Tiger with his rehab. Like there's I don't know when we're going to hear anything, and because
couple things have trickled out in the last, week or two. There was a picture of him. TMZ got him. He was on the course without any crutches. He was walking around with his son. He was out there on the range with his son. They didn't show him swinging, but he was out there. So he's creeping along, but he's coming along, right?
Yeah, he's coming along, and I read some stuff. I think it came through People Magazine about how he's really progressed in his rehab. Seeing those pictures, watching his son Charlie there, he was in no apparent cast. So it seems like he is on his own 2 feet without crutches or with limited crutches, which is great to see. Let's hope we see Tiger in a few weeks. He hosts the event down in Albany in the Bahamas, the Hero World Challenge, which he's played in the past. Obviously not going to play this year, but that he does host that event. I don't know if Tiger's planning on being there. If he is, that will certainly be the headline and the story all week is Tiger's status. I'm sure he's got a timetable in his head on when he wants to come back, and some of the quotes that I did see pertain to that of he wants to be able to make it back on tour to play again, and not just to play, but to play well. And he's the guy throughout recent history, the last 30 years, that if there's anything that can be done in the game of golf, Tiger is capable of doing it. To kind of mesh Tiger in with last week, we saw Rory McIlroy win last week at the CJ Cup, which was awesome. Love when Rory's playing great golf. Also love to see Ricky Fowler playing great golf again. Ricky kind of fizzled on Sunday there, shot a 71, still notched a third place finish, I believe. But with Rory's win, he now has 20 wins on the PGA Tour. He's 32 years old. He's not quite 33. And he joins a very elite list of players that have won 20 times on tour, but more specifically, won 20 times on the PGA Tour before the age of 33, with also 4 major championships. There are only a handful of other players to do that. Wow. Sam Snead, or Byron Nelson did it, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, and Tiger Woods, and now Rory McIlroy. So I think that's really awesome. It also guarantees him a lifetime exemption on the PGA Tour. Not a lot of people know that. If you win 20 times on tour and also have 15 years of service, so to speak, then you have lifetime status. Rory is not to that 15-year mark. He'll have that following next year, actually 2 seasons from now. He'll have that 15-year mark. I don't think Rory is going to be in jeopardy of ever having to keep his tour card, but now reaching that pinnacle is nice. But to tie that in with Tiger, and I don't know if y'all saw this stat, it was kind of floating around, but before the age of 33, Rory now has 20 wins and 4 majors. How many wins and majors do you think Tiger had before he was 33 years old?
He had
20 and 4, the same numbers.
He had more than that. Well, he won 4 majors when he was like 24 or something like that.
Yeah, Tiger, before turning 33, Tiger Woods had won 65 times on tour with 14 major championships.
I knew it was 14. I was trying to do the math in my head. I was like, it's got to be. I was thinking 14 or 15, and then I was like, well, wait a second. He's got to get to 18. Maybe it was 13. So that makes 65. I didn't know that number, but I knew it was up there.
So he's got him tripled and quadrupled.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Wow. It's rarefied air, and it really makes you think, because you think, wow, Tiger won the Masters in 2019. We went 11 years in between majors there for Tiger, and really between hurting his knee, the surgery that followed with that Achilles injury that followed with that, then with the scandal, then with the back, everything. There is that huge stats like that make me play a massive what if game, to where if Tiger would have stayed healthy for the next decade, I mean, how many times would he have won? It's absurd.
Yep.
Nobody would ever approach it. It's over. That'd be like one of.
It already is over. No one's going to approach it.
No, well, I mean, he doesn't have the majors record, but had he not gotten injured, it's one of those. Those would be the conversations that we would lump into some of the ones we've had, Darren, like what records are unbreakable, like Cal Ripken's consecutive game streak and things like that. That would probably be an unbreakable record.
Mm-hmm.
If you never
sure. I mean, well, we might have, if Tiger's right now tied with Sam Snead for the most PGA Tour wins of all time. If he can get one more and have that record alone, even if he stays tied, that might be an unbreakable record too. 82 wins is a lot. That's a lot of wins on the PGA Tour. And it was set by Sam Snead back in the day where the fields were much less competitive than they are now. I mean, we look at Rory McIlroy of what a great player he is and a generational talent. And he has 20 wins in 4 majors at this point in his career. I mean, he's got to win 63 more times to pass Tiger. Like, it's just, I don't know if
I don't think he's going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's not going to win 33 more times. He might not win 13 more times. It's amazing. StoneO'FerryGolf.com. Craig, David, all of you who've been in and out of here all day long. Will, Walter, Clint, I'm going to keep going if I have to. I'm going to call all of you out and everybody else that listens to us. This is where you want to get your stocking stuffer for the holidays. StoneO'FerryGolf.com. Even if somebody doesn't love you in your own family, you can love yourself. Stuff your own stocking with a gift card to Stone O'Ferry. Go play golf, something from the pro shop. Might even just be one of those big, giant hot dogs. Maybe it's just a gift card for food. It doesn't matter. It's all great out at Stone O'Ferry, Hollywood on the banks of the Stono River, StoneO'FerryGolf.com. It is not too early. It's actually right in the thick of it to start thinking about Christmas, so you better do it now. Get one for dad or for the brother or for your son or whomever, StoneO'FerryGolf.com. David, I'll take you out to play golf sometime. Scott, can I have a foursome?
Of course. Thank
you. I appreciate it. See, we're good, David. We can go whenever we want to. After 11 a.m. and before 1 p.m. Wednesdays and Thursdays. That's it. That's when Scott gets me on. Better finish 18 in 2 hours, pal, or you're out of here. Scotty, thank you, man. Have a wonderful weekend. Really great stuff as always. And we look forward to speaking with you next week.
Yeah, of course. And I got to give our maintenance guys a little shout out and to, I guess, plug how great the golf course is right now. We had someone that played with us last week that came off the golf course and had played Harbor Town, where the Heritage is, the week prior. And unbiased opinion, he's not a member here or anything like that, and said that our greens were rolling better than Harbor Town down at Sea Pines. So, so our maintenance staff's doing an awesome job. Golf course is in phenomenal shape. So, come see us.
They're doing as well as the bartenders do out there.
And they do pretty well.
Yes, they do. They do a great job. Scotty, thank you so much. Seriously, go Braves. And it's a shout out to, you're giving shout outs. I'm going to give a shout out to my wife because it's pumpkin cheesecake, National Pumpkin Cheesecake Day. And she makes the best pumpkin cheesecake ever. So that's what we're eating tonight for dinner. Just that.
Jealous.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, guys. See you.
There you go. Scott Glaze out there in Hollywood. Always fun to chop it up with Scotty. Scotty, part of the Good Hair Club that Darren and I created and are not in. Thanks to Josh Pate, David Shelton, Scott Glaze. Tomorrow, J.C. Sherbert returns. Michael Flint, part of the Big Gamecock preview show. Rafael Esparza joins us tomorrow. You know how it is on Fridays around here. It's so much fun. Meredith, who wins this golf match? JB and Meredith versus Scott and Darren? We do. That's not even close. You know that.
We should get that one out on the course and see who wins that one.
Absolutely. I'm in. Let's do it.
That'd be fun.
We got an off weekend coming up next week. Gamecocks aren't playing. You got a big game next week, though.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we're out of here. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice, returns tomorrow at noon. So does the Big Gamecock preview show. And we'll see you then.